what kind of person would it be a winner, like a world number one? What kind of person would you have to be?
Ooh, good question.
This week on Talking Squash, we're here with Martin Heath, former world number 4 squash player and performance director of Squash Canada. What would you say, even though you're obviously an elite player, a high performance coach, most players that play squash are just average people off the street. What are some of the most important things you think people can hear from you that will help their game the most?
Okay, good question. I think, so what I see anyway, so give me a level. So talking club level, like
yeah.
mid-moderate club level.
C level would
4.0.
Yeah,
okay.
4.0.
So people tend to want to hit the ball through the court. They just, it's a nice sound off the wall, they want to smack it hard and hit the ball off the court. The problem is that you don't have any time to get to the middle of the court and then anticipate the next shot. So opening the racket face a little bit, being able to use the height of the court, that's very hard for your opponent to play. It also gives you time to be able to, and probably a straight path back to the tee, and it gives you time to be able to look and see what your opponent's going to do, anticipate the next shot, and then stay on that cycle. So rather than just hit and run, which is what you tend to find out. So it's a lot of fun playing like that,
use
right?
Use the entire front wall.
Use the entire front wall.
Yeah.
And the other thing as well is that trying to get your movement coming back automatically to the tee. Like imagine you got a bungee cord on your lower back and you're always kind of being drawn back into this middle area. So making that automatic. So rather than hit, watch, then move, you hit and automatically move back. So I think those are two of the biggest things that could make the biggest difference. So use the height and the front wall, try and anticipate getting that positive cycle and make that elastic movement part of that, right?
Yeah, I find often players think that rushing to the ball is the most important thing, and they neglect to focus on getting back to the middle of the tee.
But I also find that it's very rewarding when you play squash to hit hard, and when you hit that low hard winner, like it triggers something in your reward system, right?
Right.
So,
yeah.
But hitting that nice lob tight to the wall to the back court doesn't necessarily reinforce anything inside of you, right?
Well, that's what creates the opportunity, though. That's what's going to create the space and the loose shot for you to then crank the ball and feel that endorphin rush or whatever it is that you're getting, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to create the space to be able to hit into. If you're trying to crank it and you're just hitting the ball onto the guy's racket, then then you're going to be running.
Yeah.
It's going to be a frustrating day.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Yeah. Maybe not you, but we've been.
Recently, there's been a poll online for the greatest squash players of all time. Who do you think, in your opinion, who are the best?
I mean, for me, watching all the old guys play, and the guys like that developed the game really. That was the old Cans and Jonah Barrington and Jeff Hunt and these guys, and then that generation that kind of really took the physical part of the game, and like Jahangir. Jahangir's got to rank as just his record alone is just untouchable. 10 British Opens and 555 matches in a row. You got to, the numbers don't lie, right? So, but obviously the sport was different back then. There weren't many players playing, and he was the one that was really taking that kind of, that real physical route. But then Jancher, the way that Jancher played, it was unbelievable. It was incredible, and it's and then my generation, it was Jonathan Power and Peter Nicol, and also you see the game evolving now. So the scoring system, so everything's it's obviously an incredibly hard thing to judge. Is to go from racket, heavy rackets and not much training, education at that point, right? And nutrition or anything like that. So. Jancher used to drink milk between games. He just didn't know. That was so now obviously there's a lot of information. There's a lot of resources for people to help them, and the scoring has changed and the rackets have changed. So it's the tough thing to judge. The thing that I would say is that out of that top 10, I think Peter Nicol wasn't in the top 5, and I think who was in there? Shabana was in there. I don't think I would have overturned that. Because in squash, Shabana is probably the best ball striker, maybe the best ball striker ever. And when I teach technique, it's pretty much how he hits the ball.
Yeah.
And so he's obviously a phenomenal player, but Peter Nicol was, in terms of competitiveness and easy to play, actually. Sorry, Peter, but that was easy to play. You felt like you were in the game, but just one of the, beating Peter was just like you had to climb up a mountain. It was incredibly hard.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's easy to play but hard to beat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Shabana could just chop you up, but I think I had the winning record against Shabana, and that might have been before he became like really good. But incredibly hard guy to play, but different mentality, different physicality than Peter.
Right.
It's a totally different thing to judge these two guys. So the fact that Shabana had 4 world championships and Peter had 2, I don't think that's a bearing on the how good they were in world terms.
Right, because you never really you can't see somebody on their own. Like you got to gauge what competition where they're facing too, right?
So I talked to Jonathan. We went to the Canadian Open golf together. We were talking about this, and he's like, "Look, who knows?" And it's like, "We know." It's like the only people that know the guys that are on court with each other. You know who the best guys are, and that's actually true. It's like when you walk on against someone, it's like you know their relative level. How hard it is to beat certain people.
Mm-hmm.
So I was lucky enough to be at the tail end of Jancher's career. Got to play Jancher, got to play a few of the new guys. Even some of the guys that are still playing now, like they were kind of coming in when I was still playing. So I got to see quite. And we were a transitional generation. We were the ones that kind of created this kind of using the wrist and being a bit more dynamic in and out the front of the court. And so you see the guys use this now, but you also see them lose. Kind of an emphasis upon the kind of attritional, like great length and width, and making it really hard for opponents to win points and to get a foothold in the rally. I think they've lost that a little bit actually.
Right.
The guys that do it very well are very successful, like Sherbagi. Like the pressure deep is incredible, right? So.
Because he's not a particular fancy player, even being an Egyptian player, right?
No, he's not. No, he's old school, but that's what works. If you look at all the great players, they all have certain things in common, and they're not just always in and out dynamic players, right? Even Gauthier has settled his game down from that into more traditional style of play.
Yeah, it seems like the most successful style now is a hybrid of that attritional and attacking.
Yeah.
Like earning your opportunities to roll the cross-court nick with a great straight length.
But I mean, you gotta take your opportunities too, right? Because they don't come very often.
And I would say the guys now are better at that than we were.
Mm-hmm.
I think there, a couple of guys were incredibly good. Rodney Martin was incredible hands, and you could put the ball away from anywhere. Kareem Darwish was unbelievable.
Right.
And I think that you see a lot of the guys that it's just like as soon as they get a loose one, boom, they've got it. They've hit the winning shot, and there's more players that have got that ability now than there were when I was playing, for example.
Right.
So that's great to see. But in terms of like all level, and like looking at these guys, I would say that a lot of the players now would tend not to respect the guys like Peter Nicol, and it's just like you have no idea, buddy. You have no idea how hard it is to beat.
Because you're exactly like you're saying, like easy to play, and that's what they see, right?
Right.
Yeah.
They don't see those kind of like really dynamic kind of things, but it's just like that length and width that's always going away from you. The best choices dominating the mid of the court all the time, and you're always in the back end of it.
Right.
It's just and you're always chasing. You don't realise that your heart rate is 200 and all the time. But it's a good question. I mean, it's one of these interesting questions, right?
Yeah.
It's
that there really almost is no right answer because it's so subjective too. But
right.
I think Jonathan's definitely in there.
You think he's one of the top?
And I think a lot of people thought, why the hell's Jonathan Power in there? And it's just like, well, because his record doesn't compare to maybe other players. But I mean, when you walk on court with this guy, it's like, if you wanted someone to, play a game for your mum's life, it's like, he's a pretty good choice. If you really wanted to win.
Well, it was like we'd had a little chat before, and you said it the reversed. Like I liked your saying was like, they don't want to lose. Like it's almost like the bigger driver than I want to win. It's like I cannot lose.
That's the mentality, and Jonathan definitely had that. Yeah, just like it's unfathomable to lose. It can spill over into something else, right?
Yeah,
but but it's for someone to have that, it's tough to compete against those kind of guys, right?
Yeah, you're born with that. I think. Do you think you can learn that?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
When I see those kind of guys, it's like that's an inbuilt kind of thing, or through your development, through your childhood, it's an impossibility for you to lose. Yeah. This is not in your own.
That's what drives them to put the extra 10 hours a week in.
Yeah.
Even as a player, you got into commentating. I remember when I first started playing squash and watching it. Your voice is very, very unique. and the first time I met you, I knew it was you just from your voice, from hearing you on PSA TV. So is commentating and sports broadcasting something that you've enjoyed, you're interested in, or is that anything you'd ever pursue?
I mean, I've done a lot of it. I mean, I think I thought about taking it and going into commentary, and I used to do it with guys like Scott Oak and Vic Router, and you probably know who these guys are, the hockey commentators, and I saw their life, and I just thought, oh my God, I got to carry a little thing of number 7 around like every day, and you know, that's what you do every day,
yeah.
And I just thought, well, look, you know, you guys are experts in that. I'm an expert in squash. You know, it probably makes more sense that I take this route rather than that. And I'll do as much as I can in squash.
Right.
And if squash gets big, then you know, I'll be there. So it didn't. We haven't made a deal with PSA. I haven't managed to do anything with PSA at the moment. They wanted to take a different route. And
well, they have a very specific brand of commentating.
Right, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I enjoy listening to it sometimes. And I'm doing a lot of video analysis. You know, coaching high-level players, and so looking at players, and then looking at my players, and looking at their opponents, and a lot of the time I'm hitting mute. You know? All right, you guys are funny, but well, up to a point, right? Yeah. But you know, I enjoy it. I like talking about the game, right? So it's kind of fun just talking. So, so I'm thinking maybe getting a podcast going or something like that. Doing it, you know, rather than relying upon someone employing me, then you know, maybe something like you guys are doing, or a podcast would be kind of fun.
Yeah. I think you would have a lot of good connections with people that would have some very interesting stories that a lot of people would like to hear.
Well, I mean, it's a cool community, right? It's this tiny little sport, but it's worldwide, and you've got these great. It's got a lot of history, and it's got a lot of characters, and a lot of different types of people play, and there's these little pockets. I mean, we're in London, Ontario, and like here we are, and this could happen in the outskirts of Johannesburg as well, or anywhere else for that matter. I mean, that's what's so cool about squash is that we've got a Scottish guy, a Norwegian guy, and you're from outer space mostly, right? But I mean that's the beauty of squash, right? So so I think there's a lot of interested people in the game, and I think it'd be kind of fun to hear from these people that maybe don't get in the limelight quite so often, that are interested, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you're gonna do a podcast, I always listen to a lot of podcasts, and one of the things that strike me is that every podcast has, well, you were the greatest, what did you do? Sometimes my more interesting conversation with people are people who are like, yeah, you were the greatest and you did something wrong and you lost it, and like, or you didn't quite make it to be the world success. Like, what did you do? What steps did you do that was wrong? Or in hindsight, what would you do?
Like the Brian Jones of the Rolling Stones is like, okay, you left this band after 2 years.
Yes, exactly.
Or who's the guy in the Beatles that left? These are, I agree. These are interesting stories.
Yeah.
So maybe if you can hunt down some of these worldwide, they'll probably be interesting to listen to.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on Talking Squash. This is Martin Heath. We appreciate the time you spent with us. We'll expect more of these coming from us in the future. Well, thanks for spending this time with us. We really appreciate it. Is there any wager that we can make on our match in November, Rochester?
I think that might
Western?
be against NCAA rules, Derek. You'll find.
All right then. Then we'll cut that out. It's not going on the internet. You should have said that before.